Alright, this lesson is on exponents, and it is an introduction to exponents and how you read them. And for most of you, it's probably a review. Your reference pages are pages 176 through 179 in your book. And you should remember that exponents show repeated multiplication. The hard thing about exponents is that you're not multiplying the base times the exponent. It tells you to multiply the base that number of times. It's called powers. So 2 to the 6th power means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. It's 64. Because 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32, finally times 2 is 64. It does not mean 2 times 6, which is 12. Remember, it means to multiply the base number that many times by itself. When you're reading powers, I want you to know how they're read, and you'll say 2 to the 2nd power, but it really should be read as 2 squared. 2 to the 3rd power should be read as 2 cubed. Then you begin to read 2 to the 4th power, 2 to the 5th power, and so on. But the first two are 2 squared and 2 cubed. Another important thing you have to remember about exponents is the negative sign. It's a little different. If you see an exponent like this, negative 7 to the 4th power, it is really read the opposite of 7 to the 4th power. So 7 to the 4th power is 2,401, and its opposite is negative 2,401. If you are actually multiplying a negative times itself, then it will be in parentheses. So this says negative 7 to the 4th power. So it would be negative 7 times negative 7 times negative 7 times negative 7. So since that turns out to be an even number, because negative 7 times negative 7 would be a positive, and then negative 7 times a positive 7 times the positive answer times the negative answer would be a negative, and then again we're back to multiplying it by a negative, so 2 negatives together again would be a positive. So we're at 2,401. This is an important thing to remember. The opposite of 7 to the 4th power, negative 7 to the 4th power. Okay, stop the video right here. Look on page 52 and complete your check understanding, which is page 178, 1 through 12. Then turn the video back on and I'll go over it with you. Okay, we're back and we're ready to do page 178, 1 through 12. And the first section asks you to just write exponents. And it gave you 3 8s, so you would have written 8 cubed. Gave you 4 r's and 2 s's, so it'd be r to the 4th s squared. Then you notice that it gave you some coefficients, so a 3 and a negative 7. So we multiplied those coefficients together, so we got negative 21, and then we got a squared and b. So again, that's gathering those like terms together and then doing the operation together. In the second part, it asks you to simplify each expression. So it gave you 4 cubed, and we got 64 because we multiplied 4 times 4 times 4. Then it gave you 5/10 squared, and so we multiplied 5/10 times 5/10 to get 25 hundredths. Then it gave you the opposite of 3 squared. So we multiplied 3 times 3 to get 9, and then wrote in its opposite. In the next one, they started reminding you about the order of operations, and you really need to remember that, which says parentheses and then exponents. So the first thing I did was add 4 plus 2 to get 6. Then I did my exponent, 6 squared. 6 times 6 was 36. And then I did my multiplication. 3 times 36 is 108. So you should have come out with 108. In the next one, it was 49 minus 4 times 2 squared. So the first thing I did was 4 times 2, which would have made it 8. Notice I did circle that term. That negative went with it, but how do we read it when we're talking about exponents? The opposite of 8 squared. So I did 8 times 8 and got 64, and its opposite is negative 64. So my answer turns out to be a negative 15. Now let's look at the last 3 problems here, or 4 problems. In these, they ask you to do some evaluating. So they gave us b squared and told us that b equaled 9. So 9 squared equaled 81. Then in the next one, it was x plus 4 squared and x equaled 3. So we did 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 squared is 49. Then in number 11, it gave you 2 variables to change. M equaled a negative 3, so we needed to put that in parentheses because it was a negative 3. And not the opposite of 3, but a negative 3. And then plus n, which was 4. So we had negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. So we have 2 times 9, which equals 18. And 18 plus 4 equals 22. All following the order of operations. Okay? The last one asks you to think about whether the opposite of 6 squared is the same as negative 6 squared. And we know that that is not true because 6 times 6 is 36, but its opposite is negative 36. And I don't know why that square is there, so we'll just take that right out. Should not have been there. It's negative 36. And negative 6 squared would be 36 because 6 times 6, negative 6 times negative 6 would equal 36. So that completes your introductions to exponents. Please complete your assignment in class tomorrow. It will be page 178 and 179, 13 through 39 odd, number 48, and 56 through 64 all, which of course is a review. If you have any questions, I'll see you in class tomorrow. Have a good evening.